Welcome to Blight Bringers, a War Machine and Hordes podcast. I am one of your hosts, Ryan, and with me is my nearly degenerate and nearly... Oh god, degenerate's not the right word.
I mean, it's a word.
It
You
is.
could use
Derelict.
that.
There we go.
Derelict.
And semi-derelict co-host Nate.
Hi, Ryan. I'll have you know I have been derelict for 0% of the podcasts that we've recorded yet this year.
It's true. You are non-derelict as of January 1st, 2026. See how long we can keep that going, I guess? You are still...
I'm also currently undefeated in War Machine this year. So
shit.
Also great. Yeah, bam. Played 0 games. What?
That's solid 0% win rate.
Yep. 0% loss rate.
There you go.
Yep.
You are also...
cannot lose if you do not play.
It's true. You are also much like me and still a degenerate, so that part I was 100% accurate with, and I'm not feeling bad about that.
I didn't object to that. I thought that was a good hit. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us in this year, 2026. We're here. We're still here. I was going to say we're back, but we've kind of never left.
It's true. Don't call it a comeback. We've been here the whole time. So this is season 5. I think I'd have to go back through and count the episodes, but we've got to be 200 at this point. So that feels like an impressive milestone. I don't know when we hit it, but we definitely did at some point.
Over 200 episodes in how many feeds? Who knows?
Yeah, so for those of you who are new here, just starting War Machine or just listening to us for whatever reason, first of all, what's wrong with you? Second of all, welcome. We appreciate having you all here. My name is Ryan, the funniest man in War Machine, as called by Seth Cohen, and I mean, who knows more about comedy than a guy named Seth? Honestly, there's so many funny Seths. Seth Cohen isn't one of them, but like, it's got to rub off somewhere, right?
There's a pantheon of funny Seths. It's true.
There is.
Yeah.
Yep. And we try to take a lighthearted approach to talking about the game that we play and love. Nate is not the funniest man in War Machine, but he's top 5. I would say you're top 5. You're pretty. You got good jokes.
Yeah, I thank you, Ryan. I'll take that. That's a nice compliment.
Yeah, there you go.
We have a particular brand of humor, though. I'd say
that's a good way to put it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I can agree with that. That is just released on January 22nd January 2nd. Jesus, it's been a long day already. At approximately 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And, a couple of reminders. The full update is going to be in the app on the 21st. So look forward to all of that because it is a doozy. So, just from the preview, general kind of updates on things, a reminder on what Prime as an art, like a game army state means, and it's stuff that's released as part of the current edition, and is playable in Steamrollers, IG qualifiers, and the finals. Armies of Legend weren't released as part of the current edition of War Machine, but they can be played. They have their own armies, but like they're going to be limited. So if you're a returning player coming back and you're like, all I have is Circle of Ouroboros, like there's 2 armies that you can play in any Steamroller or IG or whatever else, like you're in. You just have a limited selection of your 16, 17 casters that you can play, as well as a more limited selection of units, beasts, yada yada yada.
There were so many.
I almost miss it at times, honestly.
Yeah, me too. The thing I do love about the modern factions is it feels like higher percentage of the entries are bangers and are things that you would take, as opposed to the example I always think of is like Stormblades and Sword Knights. You're like, these are 2 different varieties of idiot with armor and a sword. Like, did we need both of them? Probably not.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. You probably didn't need both. It does. I do miss like the Dark Horse factor though.
Yeah.
Right. There was a bit of like, before you could kind of just like show up and be like, oh yeah, have you played into Abby 1? No? Alright, well, I've been repping like 200 games with her. Let's go. And like you could kind of surprise the meta with like off-pick casters or off-pick things that people didn't see. that's a bit harder to do when there's only 6 casters. But
Yeah,
overall, it's been a pretty positive change, I think.
I would agree. Yeah. So if you're
Um,
joining War Machine in 2026, you can play your old models,
mhm,
but not all of them, and
yes,
not all at once. And
correct.
that's about the state of things.
Yeah, there's some good and bad with that. Not to go too deep into it, but for a lot of those older armies, it does make finding a pair a little difficult, right? Like if you're, I know Legion super well, so if you're looking at like a Dragon's Host, it's like, yeah, you can make one really good list that does really cool things, and then you have to make another one that also deals with cricks, and you're like, how do I do that?
The answer is Callus too, Ryan. You feet and you light them all on fire.
It's true. That is a good answer. Uh,
It's a great answer.
so
Anyway,
fair point. You got me on
moving
that one.
along.
Um, so that's what Prime is. A recap for things that we knew from Lock and Load. The spell rack going away. That's not new. Everybody knows about that at this point, or should. And what does that mean as far as how casters are done? Basically, the problem with the rack, as they describe it, is that it was supposed to be a tool for uh, like the situational spells to come in, and what ended up happening was there was a couple very powerful spells that were just always taken. You look at
Yeah,
things like Carnage, you look at things like Windstorm, uh, IR, Silence of Death, Battle Lust. Like they were just super powerful spells that you could build a list around having, or just
yeah,
super useful in every game. That there was never a good enough reason to not take them over something that might have had like a moment to shine, but was not a guarantee to get that moment, and it was just harder to pull off.
yeah. I'd say the problem, personally, I felt that the problem was less with the rack as a concept and more in the execution of the rack. But Steamforge is in charge now. They could do what they want. And it seemed like rather than try and fix a thing that was broken, they were just like, let's let's get rid of this and do something else. Some exciting stuff I did see in here. Something that they mentioned specifically was that they are fixing spells to the prime legal leaders in Mark IV. So that's your warcasters and warlocks. But that they've gotten a little creative with it and not limited themselves to the spells that were already available on that faction spell rack.
Hmm.
So to me, that's like a pretty exciting thing.
Yeah.
I know they mentioned at Lock and Load, and they mentioned in the article as well, right? Like Calder gaining countermeasures,
Hmm.
Ilari in Wintercore gaining snipe.
Hmm.
Like these are both the first time that that spell has been introduced to those factions, respectively,
Yep.
and they're gonna do really cool things like that, hopefully, with a ton of other casters. So I'm really excited to see where a lot of that ends up.
Yeah. I think the other part of that is that you'll see casters that exist in more than one place having like the same spell list instead of having to remember like, oh, if you're playing Yana in OU, what does she do different that's than Ana or Yana in Wintercore, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
so it'll make learning some of those casters like Yana, like Kythos, just a little bit easier because they're gonna always do the same thing, even if the stuff around them changes. Um,
Yeah. Agreed.
the other thing that they talked about was that, uh, so they started with, I think I was talking to Jamie about this. They started when they were like throwing spells out with the stuff that was on the rack and gave it to the casters. But like you said, it didn't just become that. But the other cool thing they had brought up was that if, rather than a thing being a spell, if it made sense for a certain caster to have it, it could just become a passive ability on them. So like
Hmm.
if you're looking at, and they didn't really give us an example, so I'm just gonna make one up. If you're looking at like Kane, and are like, oh man, snipe is such an integral part of his game plan, they could have given him snipe, or they could have looked at him and been like, okay, well instead of giving you snipe, we're gonna just make your guns 2 inches longer range, like you
Yeah. Or
specifically.
like a snipe shot type or
Yeah,
something like that.
something like
Yeah.
that. Um,
Hmm.
if like so rather than being like, okay, well we're instead of you being able to make coursers range ridiculous sprays, we're gonna let you have a longer output, but take that spell away, but it's still there for you to use so you don't just get got. Which is
Hmm.
also super cool. Um The second recap part of it was the lethality update, and there's been a lot of talk about this on the various discords and things of
Rampant
like,
speculation.
yeah, exactly what this means and how it means. So like the way it was described to me at Lock and Load, and feel free if you heard something different,
Yeah.
when I was talking to some of the SFG guys, and like especially after the keynote to be like, okay, what exactly does this mean? How does it work? Was that you look at things like Marauder Crew, or you look at things like Lashers, and it's like, why are your baseline like fighting infantry Mat 8? That's ridiculous. Like your
Mhm.
baseline like units of doing things should not be Mat 8, which is
They shouldn't be able to reliably kill my caster if I let them get on
yeah.
them.
It was
Yeah.
like this is a stat that was supposed to represent like the pinnacle of like a fighting prowess, like a caster, like a Savio Acosta in old Signar, somebody who was like a
Yeah.
4 or 5 point solo. That was all that they did, and now it's just
Isn't
like, oh
that
yeah,
in the old lore? I remember, like in previous editions, right? Like Butcher was like Mat 8 or 9
yeah,
because he was like a legendary melee fighter,
yep,
like one of the best to ever do it. Like Kane was Rat 8 or Rat 9
yeah, and
for
he was
that
like
same.
a
Earth was
renowned
Rat 8.
sharpshooter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep. So
Yeah.
what it seems to mean is that like you look at things like Marauder Crew, they're going to be Mat 6, right? Um, your average, the way it was described to me was your average like trained infantryman, your trained soldier was going to be like a Mat Rat 6. So if you're like a Winter
Yeah.
Corps guy, if you're a Gravedigger, if you're somebody who is like a trained, you went through some kind of like instruction and are there to fight, you're like a trained soldier, and your, primary weapon is a rifle, you're probably going to be like Mat 5 Rat 6 because you can still fight in melee, you're just not going to be as good at it. Whereas
Yeah.
you trained with the rifle, therefore that's going to be the thing that you are good with. Um,
Yeah. I remember back in Mark II, the mat and rat values, I think almost were like described in that way to
mhm,
me, either in the rule book or like from word of mouth, where
mhm,
somebody said, like, if you are just showing up to the battle and you haven't had a ton of experience fighting, but you kind of like know your way around, you're
yep,
going to be like mat 5 or rat 5.
mhm,
If you're like trained in your respective nation's military or equivalent organization, you're going to be like Mat or Rat 6.
mhm,
And if you are like an elite soldier, like either in melee or at range, you're going to be like Mat and Rat 7.
yeah,
But I think that's a more of an idea of like how often should you expect to see those values
yeah. In
uh,
in in
present
terms of
on
like,
the.
sorry, go ahead.
No, and the wonderful thing about the 2d6 system of War Machine is all of a sudden your, average roll, or most commonly roll on 2d6, is that 7.
Hmm.
And if your units go from mat like 8 down to mat 6 or 5, all of a sudden you're no longer reliably able to hit those higher defense values like 15,
Hmm.
but you are still able to pretty reliably hit like defense 12 or defense 13.
Yeah.
And that
Um,
feels like that stat has been one that I just have felt since the launch of Mark IV. Like I have always felt like defense does not matter,
yeah.
for a number of reasons. And it's nice to see that defense might again matter.
Yeah, it brings the whole curve. It doesn't drop the curve, it just moves it slightly to the left on the graph. So instead
Mm-hmm.
of, especially if like with the rack going away, let's say you're looking at being like, oh, well, I'm used to playing into Crix, and if I'm have def 14, they're just gonna rack Carnage. Well, like they can't do that now. Maybe they keep a caster that has it, but like they're not gonna just be like, oh, you have a lot of def stuff. I'm just gonna rack this thing and make it easy.
Yeah. Traditionally, if I remember Mark II correctly, and it has been a long time for me, so take this with a grain of salt, but like that was a traditional problem for Crix
Mhm.
for the majority of Mark II, was that uh, the entire faction was like Mat 6. All the infantry were
Yeah,
Mat 6. And
they,
like they needed spells and feats and things like that to reliably be able to hit. They
Yep.
never had a problem with damage, but accuracy was like always a problem with
Yeah,
them.
they were always the Banes are gonna kill whatever they hit. It's just how many times can they hit.
They hit, yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
so as far as lethality going down, it seems like it's a lot of just uh, these high mat baseline units going down, these high rat baseline units going down, and probably it doesn't say this specifically, but I would expect like most cohorts to go down. You look at like the general. Why is the general mat 8? Like that feels ridiculous to me. So like I could see him going down to Mat 7 because that feels much more reasonable for a character Warjack than randomly him being at the same mat as like the Butcher, right?
I thought he was Mat 8 because he had like Rowdy's old Cortex shoved in there.
It
That
may
I don't know if that's actually true. That might just be headcanon.
maybe
Don't, you know.
even if it is, like
Yeah.
that's still ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Like so I would expect most things to be going down, and if you have more than one stat, so like if you're like a primeval, and you've got a mat rat and arcane attack stat depending on whatever, I wouldn't expect that you're going to be like, oh, I'm mat 7 rat 7 arcane 6. Like one of those is going to be like maybe one will stay at a 7 if you're lucky, and the other ones are going to be 6s or 5s because you're just not good at everything, right? It's just
Yeah.
not how that works.
It seemed, from this, I mean, specifically the thing they called out in this article and talked about with Marauder Crew, just to bring it back to like what we know as opposed to like what we might speculate to know.
Yeah, yeah,
The rule they specifically called out was gang,
yep.
and kind of talking about like what a problem gang has been,
Hmm.
which I think is less because of gang in and of itself, but more because of like the ubiquity of
Yeah,
this rule.
where it
Like
ended
this
up.
rule is all over the game, and that this has always been a thing I've loved about War Machine is there's like four different rules that kind of do the same thing,
Hmm.
like gang, or sitting vulture, or combined melee attack, or I don't know. There's got to be some other one that I'm not thinking of, or like powerful charge,
Hmm.
right? Like all of these rules like make a unit more accurate, but all of them are situational. So you
Right.
can have a unit who's like printed mat is 5, but like when you kind of do the thing and solve the puzzle and set these things up correctly, then they get to be mat 6 or mat 7 functionally for the attacks they're making. But they either get to make like fewer attacks, or it's harder to set those things up, or like they don't get that bonus in every situation.
Yeah.
And I'm if that's the case, and we're seeing these kind of rules disappear, like gangs specifically, like they talk about in the article, like I'm all for that. I love it.
Hmm.
I just want F13 to matter again.
Yep. Um,
Yeah.
so like the other part of that is like looking at gang specifically, kind of where it ended up, because for it it ended up on units that were like already like Marauder Crew, where they were base mat 6. So it's like you had this inbuilt hit buff to get to 8, but you already started at a fairly reasonable mat for like the amount of attacks you were making. Um,
Yeah.
that I
And
think.
you're also in an army where you could bring like +4 damage,
Mhm.
kind of agnostic of caster, and then gang contributing to that all of a sudden makes it so that this cheap unit, Marauder Crew, like hits like an absolute freight train.
Yeah. Their only downside was that they had a fairly low threat range, but like once they got to you, they were gonna hit and they were gonna kill you. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's just how that worked.
Yeah.
So lowering uh all of that a bit and making it so that you're more likely to miss a little bit more is how this is going to go. The other thing they specifically mention is dual attack has been not removed from everything, but like it basically is kind of says is that it's not going to be the baseline thing if you have a gun plus a melee attack. So
Yeah.
if you're a Marauder
Mm-hmm.
Crew, you don't get dual attack just because you also have a pistol. Maybe they pick up assault, maybe they pick up, quick work or something where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, if I kill a thing, I also get to make a shot, or I get to make a shot specifically at the thing that I charge. But like, it's not just going to be this like, oh, this 5-man unit charges in and gets 10 attacks. Like, mm, that's not
Yeah.
always gonna happen.
This kind of feels like a similar right thing to what I was saying before, where like quick work and assault are versions of a rule that let you make a ranged attack, but like you don't get it all the time
Right.
every time you make a melee attack, right? It's sort of like, CMA or brutal charge or something like that, or
Yeah.
powerful charge, whatever, whichever one that is. I can never keep those straight.
I think it's powerful charge.
Yeah, powerful charge. Yeah, but it's very clear to me, especially from what they talked about above, with like fixing spells to the leaders and not limiting themselves to rack spells. Personally right now, I'm hoping this lethality update keeps like the flavor of units the same, but not exactly the rules the same.
Yep. Yeah.
Like you need to do stuff to get stuff instead of just getting everything for showing up,
Right.
which is how a lot of the Mark IV armies have felt, to
Yeah.
be
Which is
honest.
honestly how that should be too, right?
Yeah,
If you're just take assault as an example. Like, it's one thing if you charge in, like, okay, I can make my melee attack and my gunshot. If you're just walking in, no, you get to pick one or the other, right? Um, and I think just that will help adjust some of that kind of rocket tag that the game has felt like for a while now, where it was very much like if you got to somebody first, you probably just wiped out whatever you got to, and there almost wasn't anything the other person could do about it other than like, dump all of their buffs in one place or just hope you get bad dice.
yeah. I think there was also mention of the fact that the lethality of the game existing as it was kind of tilting the game, and this was a point that somebody made to me earlier in the year too, is that like defensive feats are kind of the king of Mark IV because the game is so lethal. So
Yep.
like, yeah, if you're, like you could have a feat in Brine Bloods that gives like all your Marauder crews Weapon Master, and it like literally wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Like,
Because, well,
what are
yeah,
they getting? Is not killing.
like
Doesn't matter.
everything has weapon master until the first time you run into Harusk or Kythos, and you're just like, yeah, all right, like I still need to be able to crack armor 20 plus across the board, or
Yeah.
I'm still needing to hit like this def 15, 16 nonsense where it's like, yeah, it's great that I have weapon master, but like it doesn't matter when I just can't hit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the example I was kind of making was like that feat in Brian's like fundamentally wouldn't help
no,
them in
would
their
not change
core
anything.
game plan, right? Like whereas a feat like Boomhowler's feat, Thorga,
Hmm.
Thorga's feat, right, that gives you additional defense as of 2025,
Yep.
right? Gave you additional defense and uh rapid healing. Who the heck knows what it's going to do next,
It's true.
right? Or if it's even going to stay the same, right? We don't know.
I mean, Thorga
Um,
died, so
yeah, that is true. She is dead now.
you might not even have her anymore. They might just be like, all right, she's dead. You lose her. Bye. Get
She is
rectals.
now a caster.
Yeah.
The end.
Sucks to be you, Brine Bloods
uh,
players.
yeah, but that's why you rely on casters like that, because that army, right, does not have a problem hitting or killing things. Like if you're relying on Marauder crews, they have a problem getting their Marauder crews to the fight.
For sure. Um,
Yeah,
so the other part of all of this that always happens is looking at balance across everything, right? That's just like a normal part of January is looking at what gets taken, what doesn't get taken, and kind of
yes,
trying to figure out like, okay, are the things that are taken all the time taken because they're too good? Or is it because the other options are so far below them that they're not really in contention? And
yeah,
looking at a bunch of the changes, it feels like they went with the instead of knocking things down to like a level, we're going to actually look at the things that are not working and bring them up.
not doing well. Yeah,
Um,
and they have. I was really heartened to see them in this article mention keeping a close eye on the community stats and
yep.
play rates.
Mhm.
Do you know how many games of War Machine were logged in Longshanks last year, Ryan?
I don't. I haven't looked.
It is over 14,000.
Excellent.
That's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Like 11,000 of them or 13,000 of them were like tournament games, 11,000 of them were rated. There were like 400 casual games. And I think you can see a little bit of what you're talking about here, where right? We look at the factions and their play rates and their win rates, and
Hmm.
it's pretty clear that there are some factions that people absolutely love that are not doing well.
Right. And I mean,
Uh,
the plus side of
and
looking at,
those factions are Wintercore and House Callus, right?
I mean,
Both
no,
of
nobody
them
likes Kador. It's fine.
both of them boasting Wintercore 2,368 games played last year with a 44% win rate. House Callus 2,544 with a 47% win.
I think the most interesting part when you look at the stats is like when we talk about it, we like to look at specific events, right? We look at
Yeah.
any big convention that just happened. You look at things like WTC. You look at things like the Welsh Masters, like Adepticon, like the OTC in Australia, and be like, oh, let's break down what the top people here did. I think the cool thing about having all of like the stats on Longshanks is just the aggregate data because it
Yeah.
shows you what the average experience is. So like you can kind of see that like you look at I'm gonna make up some numbers here because I don't have Longshanks pulled up, but you look at like Orgoth and be like, oh, well, Harusk has 56% win rate. Like,
He has
okay,
a
that
60,
is it
right?
60? Okay. So
It's 60.
he's six
971 games.
so he's got a 60% win rate. Like, but that's not just like, oh, the Rikers of the world playing him where they can just show up one list an event and be like, fuck you, I win. It's your average person can do that, which means
Yeah.
that feels like a good indication that okay, Harusk is probably a little too strong. And then you look at the rest of the Orgoth staple, and I think everybody except Butcher is below a 50.
Even Butcher's below a
Is
50.
he?
Yeah, for the
Okay.
year.
So
Yeah,
like,
Butcher also like to also put this in context, right? There's 2000 only 2009. There's 2009 games logged with Sea Raiders
yeah,
and 971 of them are with Harusk,
right.
which is like that's you're almost half of your games with one leader,
Yep.
and the other ones altogether are like the other half.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Comparing that situation that you said, right, where like, you know, Harusk is a 60% win rate across the year,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then looking at a caster like Oriax who clocks in with, are you ready? 89 games
And a
played
30%
in
win
the
rate.
year
Yeah.
and a 30% win rate. And you're like, something here needs to change,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, the other
And I
cool.
know it has that little star on Longshanks that's
Mhm.
like small data pool. But even if you look at ones with bigger,
Yeah, you
like
look at like Kishtar.
Star, yeah, 147 games, 41%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the cool thing about the aggregate data though, is I think this actually for the year, the dev team can look at this and be like, okay, like Harusk is doing really well. We need to bring him down. Like maybe they're happy with Butcher and Sabareth at like 46% because that feels reasonable, right? Like a 46 to 50% win rate or 46 to like 55 feels like the sweet spot for like any caster. Like you're
hmm
kind of coin flippy, so that one feels alright. So maybe it's like okay, we're not going to touch them much, but like Kishtar and Oriax need help. And this is a good tool for them to kind of get just a general view of like, okay, what is being played? Why is it being played? Is it, because it's just obviously strong? Is it an answer to something else that exists in the meta? You know? You look at like Kythos that comes out, and suddenly you see everybody dropping their caster that has Carnage or that has a bunch of hit buffs. It's like, okay, is this caster or these casters getting played because they're super good, or is it because Kythos exists and you need to have an answer to that, or you just lose?
I mean, even with all that, he's still 60% win rate.
For sure.
Like,
That, I'm
yeah,
I'm just saying that as an example. But I think
yeah.
having the
I
aggregate
do think,
data gives the dev team something to look at and be like,
yeah,
why is this the way that it is? And then what do we need to do to fix it? Is the answer we need to buff up everybody else because, you need to hit better? Or is it, Kythos might be a little strong and he's influencing the meta a lot, or the Trike might be strong and is influencing the meta, or some other model is very strong and influencing the meta. We need to knock that down to like create more diversity.
yeah. I do think looking at the data can also help you make some pretty interesting conclusions. Like the C Raiders example that we talked about, where it is very clear looking at the data from this year, Harusk, very good,
Mhm.
other casters, not so much, right? So like your suggestion of maybe we bring Harusk down a little and then we try to bring Kishtar and Oriax up.
Hmm.
Um, Whereas I like the difference if you look at the House Callus numbers,
Hmm.
where basically everybody is between 44 and 51%,
Yep.
right? Like all of the casters are kind of tightly bunched around that data point with like Tyrus and Helith being up at the top. Um, that to me says like this faction as a whole just has some problems
Yep.
inbuilt, right? That like even the best caster available to them, right? Which I would argue is not Helith, it's
Hmm.
Tyrus, right? Even
Yep.
he can only get the faction up to a 49% win rate.
Right.
So like that to me says there's something more fundamental that needs to be addressed there.
So I would look at that, and I think I would take a different conclusion out of that, because you look at the numbers for the casters, and if we go, like I said, from like a 46 to 55 is kind of the sweet spot. Like
Yeah.
everybody here except Hazaroth is in that sweet spot. Like, okay, that feels fine, but it feels like a way to look and be like, okay, the casters aren't the problem because they're all in this
Yeah.
kind of sweet spot. So, like, what is actually happening that this feels disadvantage to the players? Is it, something where a particular model is too good for its points and feels like it needs to be taken, but the rest of the meta just has an answer to it? Um, or is it just like there are some predators out there that just kind of incidentally catch this in the crosshairs? And again, you look at like Dusk, and their biggest problem has always been number of attacks and being able to hit, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So, and then you look at
You're an
what's,
elf army, you're elite, and every attack you make matters, and
yep.
you can make like 13 meaningful attacks a turn.
Hmm.
So they better do stuff.
So then you
Yeah.
look at that compared to, again, like a Kythos that comes out where they're just running a bunch of expendable idiots at high defense. Maybe the problem isn't, again, that, oh, Dusk needs all this help. Like, there's things in there that absolutely do, don't get me wrong. But maybe the answer
Yeah.
there is, these other things are very strong and preying on this army's weakness. Is this a thing where we need to examine it and give them tools to help mitigate that a little bit? Or do these things need to get knocked down because they're just too strong? And I think
Yeah.
that's the interesting thing to look at and try and figure out. And I don't, whatchamacallit, envy the devs that task, right?
Yeah.
Because
Me neither.
anybody who's got to
There's
try and
so
figure that
much.
out and like go through every possible interaction and every model entry, like even with Mark IV, where there's significantly less models than there ever was in like Mark II or III, it's still a ton of models and a ton of interactions. Like trying to figure out exactly where the problems are. Fuck, that's a lot of work. I don't get paid enough for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the
But
other cool thing coming up
yeah.
in roughly 19 days at time of release. They also were nice enough to give us a bunch of army overviews, and
Some nice spoilers.
yeah,
Yeah.
some awesome spoilers. I don't want to go through all of these because there's like multiple pages of stuff. Uh, so I figure we could kind of talk
Favorite
about
pile.
some of the big ones.
Yeah.
Um, Starting with Crix because they're kind of a boogeyman right now anyway, and they're at the top of the list. Flat out, the article says that Kythos is propping up right now. He's also been knocked down a little bit to let other casters actually get involved. The interesting part that I saw in here, though, is that there's a new rule apparently that's going to get put on at least corpse crawlers, but it says it's a global rule, so I'm assuming it's going to be on other models as well. And it's called inconsequential, which
Yep.
means that a model can't contest or score objectives anymore. Uh,
Yeah.
so like, it's the article says it's applied to most models created during the game, so I'm assuming this would also apply to like the Dusk Void Engine guys. I think
Yep.
Grimkin has what are they? The Madcaps?
Yeah. The Caskimps.
Yeah,
The
Caskimps.
little cap spit out. Yeah.
The Necro Harvester obviously can make its little idiots. Trying to think if there's anything else that just like creates things. The Hellmouth, I guess, maybe. I could see the
Does
tentacles
the
getting that.
does the storm wall still drop a storm pod?
I think so.
It's been so long.
Yeah, but like things. Well, I
Or
know they had said
the
Thunderhead does.
roller skate. What is it? The Convergence Battle Engine makes its
Yep.
own servitors. Maybe they get it. Who the
Yep.
heck,
Well,
right? There's
same thing with like
so many.
Thunderhead 2. They said that he's going to make his own thing, so I bet you it'll be on them.
Who knows?
It's true. We don't know yet, but it's at least
Yeah,
going to be
we
on
don't.
it's at least going to be on the Necro Harvester. And it specifically says that's applied to most models created during games,
Yeah.
as well as a few immovable models. So that'll be a nice way to be like, oh hey, you know, this thing you're making for essentially free can't just hold up scenario anymore.
Yeah. Hmm.
Which is a really cool thing because I can't tell you how many games I've been annoyed by, like, oh, I killed this one soulless idiot, and now there's a void spirit, and I can't kill it because my stupid guidance idiots already went.
Because I forgot to put guidance on my guys who
Yep,
were gonna go kill Solus.
yep,
Oh no!
and now it's just gonna stand there. Next turn, it's gonna run in and contest my scenario. Fuck.
Ooh.
Yeah. So them having to just not hold up scenario. I'm curious what that's going to do to some of those armies like scenario play, like Crix, like Dusk,
Mm.
and how they're going to handle that. But like, I don't think either one of them was super crutching on it anyway. But it'll be neat to see exactly where that goes.
I kind of feel like it goes hand in hand with the lethality change that they talk about above, right?
Mhm.
Where like the scenarios, your engagements just it sounds like they're just trying to make the engagements like messier, right? Like you commit your unit onto the other unit and like
Maybe you don't
dice
just
go
auto
well,
kill all of them.
yeah, and like maybe you get 4 of the 5 guys, but like maybe you don't get the last one, so then you
Mhm.
don't clear the thing, so then you have to like put a few boosted gunshots in there or like commit something else or whatever, like
Yeah,
yeah. And then yeah, so like why would your free models then also be a thing that like you need to deal with? I don't know. It feels like it goes hand in hand.
for sure. And that's all.
That's all.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
also. I agree with that. Um, Decathus also looks like he got a bit of a rework. To get souls even against soulless stuff. So like against Shadow Flame, and against people who only put like Jax in his control, and kept all of their guys back.
The other army is Dusk because they're all
Oh,
dead
yep,
and
yep,
sold.
yep, yep, yep.
Yeah. Oh.
I was trying to think. I'm like, man, there's somebody besides Chimera where everything's soulless. Yeah, it is Dusk, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Dusk. Yep.
Uh-huh. I forget about them. They're just so forgettable. R.I.P.
Ouch.
Dusk.
Oh, I'm looking at them on my shelf right now. And how dare you, Ryan?
I no regrets.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. Decathus getting a little bit of a rework. It also looks like he picked up Knowledge of the Damned, which I think is on the solo idiot that gives rerolls.
I think it was on Scaverus.
Isn't that the thing that's on the like 3 point?
I thought he does corpses, so I thought his was the Grave Ghoul rule, bone
See,
working.
now I gotta look.
Yeah, or something like that. I don't know.
Strength of No, it's on the Iron Lich Commander. Knowledge of the Damned.
Oh, it is. Oh,
Yeah.
does he have a control area?
Yes, control 10.
Is that why? Oh, okay. Yeah, because in my head I was like, no, that's always been on casters because it's within control, right?
Yep. Nope, he gets
But
a soul to
yeah,
force a reroll, so Decathus gets that too, so we can use that to force some rerolls. Both friendly
pretty
and
cool.
enemy, which is cool.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Um,
Definitely helpful given the aforementioned lethality changes.
Yep. And speaking of lethality, Brute Thralls look like they went down from Mat 7 to 6. There you go.
Yep.
But they got cheaper for it.
Yeah.
So like,
all right,
that's a good example of just like, hey, here's a unit, it went down, and then it got cheaper. There you go. It's otherwise the same. Go nuts.
I want to talk about Athena. Like, holy crow.
She got a whole rework.
Yeah, and this is so cool to me. Like, this is one of the reasons I'm so excited that Steamforge is at the helm and that they're doing this, right? They actually looked into her lore to find out that she's a devout Morrowind. So then they're like, okay, she's Morrowind. Let's give her some spells or abilities that are like more in theme with that. So they got rid of open fire on her. They added banishing ward. And what else? Blinding light, blinding light is an incredible spell. Like, faction definingly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
If you've never had to play against Assyria, bless your heart.
You've lived a blessed life, and you deserve.
Yeah, I've lived a blessed life. And speaking of blessed, see what I did there? That was a good transition.
It's almost
Her
like I
new
set you up for
spell.
that.
Yeah, Hand of Morrow, a friendly upkeep, which gives a model or units weapons blessed and magical, which is pretty dope, honestly, in an army where you have a bunch of, 5-person units with like guns and melee weapons and things like that. So cool. And then redid her feat, so -2 def, -2 speed, and repo 3. Pretty
Super cool.
cool. Yeah. And then she keeps defense formation and picks up resourceful, which like you look at and you're like, this is fundamentally this is like a whole different caster than
Yep.
what she was
It
before.
is an
Like,
entire rework to make a caster that saw, I think, a decent amount of play at the beginning of Mark IV, fell off, and
yeah,
then never picked back up. Say, okay, why is it that it became the Huxley and Calder show? How do we get her back into it? And then not just pushing what she was doing, but really looking into her lore. Shout out to Sherwin for what I'm sure was a lore dump to
yeah,
do that, and like figure out how to make her unique in Signar.
yeah. She accounted for less than just over 5% of the games played with Storm Legion in the
Yeah.
past year. So what a cool, yeah, like what a cool comeback.
Yeah. Mind
Holy
you,
bro.
I don't want Signar to have nice things, but also this is pretty cool. I'd be more
This is
happy if it went to anybody else, but it'll be fine, I guess.
And then the other thing that I thought was interesting here was the Stormguard Legionnaires,
hmm
the halberd guys in Storm Legion that had
Jack Hunter.
Jack Hunter. Yeah, they get a new rule that's just called Big Game Hunter, which says that it works against like all cohorts
Yep.
now. So monstrosities, horrors, war beasts are now like no longer immune,
Yep.
which like that's really freaking cool. Definitely gives them like a role for sure.
I see the
And
thing.
that's kind of the redesign that I really like
Yeah.
because for a long time they were right the Storm Guard Legionnaires and the Storm Blade
hmm
Legionnaires just felt like functionally interchangeable,
Yep.
right? They're both reach 2, they both like hit decently. They're both speed 6. Like one unit has shield wall, the other unit has set defense. Like set defense does not matter when you're armor 15
Yep.
because you just get shot off the table.
Accurate.
So yeah.
Yeah. I was
So
gonna
that's a
say.
neat thing.
I think the cool
Yeah.
part about that though is it opens up a lot more usefulness for them, right? And it opens up
Yeah.
that if this was a thing they're willing to give to them, is it going to go to other places too? Only
Yeah.
because it's like it's a conditional weapon master, so it's like it doesn't make them any better against shield walled idiots. It doesn't make them any better into things like mana
Yeah.
war. Like
And
these.
it does not it kind of is okay to do that if you know that electrify is not, for example, going to be available
Yep.
100% of the time in every
hmm
list. Like you can actually make decisions like that and
Yep.
have them be impactful.
It's super cool. Other
Yeah.
thing for Signar that I thought was super neat, and again, I don't want Signar to have nice things, is it seems like the Sky Bomber and Sky Raider are getting some electrical weapons. So it doesn't say exactly what that means, but I'm wondering if like the fire spray becomes like an electrical spray, or like the
Yeah.
gravity bomb picks up like an electric type damage. Because that'd be kind of cool, especially like it says with ionization. So you get like the Zephyr in there, or you get Spark Hammer in there, and suddenly like these things hit just a little bit harder than you think they should when you can actually start pairing them up with things, which is super cool for what is essentially just like a Merc battle engine, right?
Yeah. And leans a little bit nicely into the kind of ancient history of Signar. Signar's always been like that faction that takes advantage of mercenaries really well.
Yeah, Haley Too Bad touched me with them for a long time. Yeah, Haley Two
Yeah.
Super Friends,
And
R.I.P.
ionization, the really cool thing about that rule that they call out as well, ionization affects enemy models that take an electrical type
hmm
damage roll. So it's like it works regardless of whether or not the model making the attack is friendly faction.
Yep,
So pretty rad. Yeah.
for sure.
Um,
Old Umbre
yeah,
is
were there Oh, I was gonna say, were there any other just to keep us from going through all of them, were there any other things called out here in the article that excite you in particular?
So there was two or three. So
Hmm.
uh, Old Umbre. One of the things that I thought was neat was the Shearling Scapegoat doesn't trigger on ranged attacks anymore. It apparently is changing to like a melee equivalent of like a shield guard, which
Hmm.
is super cool. I want to see how that's worded. Uh, but if it goes from being like a shield guard type ability, it might not RFP itself anymore. Which means if you have like Nastilla or Aslanov, you could potentially get some revive shenanigans there. Again, depending
Yeah.
on depending on how it's worded, but it
Depending
also
on-
just means that
Yeah.
like the big complaint I heard for a while with like Old Umbre was like, oh, the casters are practically unkillable because you have these two goats standing there that just stop any damage rolls, and then you have these shield guards that just pop out, and it's like suddenly they're still hard to kill, but like it means that oh, you didn't take shield guards. If I have strong enough guns, I can actually do some damage. Um,
Yeah. I liked that change, and I also like that, like we talked about before with the Stormblades and Stormguard. Like I like that these units now have lanes,
mhm.
right? Like the Ursines are there for shield guards and whatever the old Umbre version of Shadow Protector is. Protective Rage, is that
Yep,
what it's
that's what it
called?
is.
Yeah. Yeah, like these guys are there to take the gunshots. The goats are there to help in melee. And it kind of also means that as a person building an old Umbry list, which I know you do,
I sure do.
right? You actually need to spend more points to defend yourself agaurst both things.
Yep. Or you need to decide which one you're
Which
willing to
one
be
you
weak
work?
against,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
which like is perfectly fine. The other cool thing I think that was in here was they're adding Karavnik as well as Alexia to Old Umbre. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not
Speaking of revive,
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how good either one of them is going to be. Just because like Krovnik's big thing is spell slave, but like geomancy already exists, so like, is there anything that anybody really wants to spell slave? I don't know, but like it's a 3 point idiot with a dispel axe, so like maybe. And then Alexia feels like a neat tech piece to add in. You know, you're looking at things like Dusk or Crix and being like, well, this one idiot can go and mess with you a little bit. Like, I don't know. It's not a huge deal, but I think it's neat that they went back and were like, hey, these things that have existed for a while, it makes sense for them to be here. So like, we're just gonna add them in. Here you go.
mm, Ryan, I'm racking my brain to figure this out.
Hmm.
But oh, it is spells on the leader's card.
Yep. No,
I
you
was
can't
like, it would
spells.
be really dope if your boy could spell slave Animi.
No.
Um, but I will say, at least in Winter Core, one of my favorite spells to spell slave with him is Fury Strength on Yana,
Yep.
and I can't imagine that won't be just as fun to do in Old Umbry.
Oh, it probably will be good. I also imagine somebody like Reznikova isn't gonna hate having another cheap stranglehold around just in case you need it.
Yup. Yup. Or another, what's her nuke called? The really cool one?
Thistle.
Thistle?
Yeah.
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 Another thistle, like a spell that can be auto boosted.
Yep.
Like way cool.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that was the cool things there. And then the other one that this is less super important, but I just like it. Strix, they gave him a chain effect shifter. So it's like Bowden's bird, where if he hits a thing with both claws, he just gets to like teleport base to base with it.
Oh, that's cool.
So you can be like, oh, I just got into range on one side of you, smack, smack. Now you pop behind them, and assuming there's, obviously space for your base, it gets you like an extra 5, 6 inches of like board space, and then you can sprint from there.
Yeah.
So that's gonna, I think, lend to some really cool situations of like, oh man, I had to go in and try to kill this thing, and my dice went really soft, but like I managed to get because I shifted to the right spot. There's like a one box idiot that I couldn't get to otherwise, so I'm gonna smack him just to be able to sprint out and like get
Yeah,
safe
just to
again.
be able to guarantee the sprint. Yeah. That's a really neat man. They gotta stop making Old Umbry an army that I want to play.
They're so cool. I'm working on painting Strix right now, and like
They look awesome.
if you've never painted feathers before, just don't. It's not fun.
Ryan, I played Legion for like 10 years. I've painted more feathers than I even want to think about.
Fair.
Um, yeah.
Um,
Anything else that stuck out to you that was like really exciting to see?
um, so for Chimera, Valix and Lilith are both getting reworks, which think is super cool.
Yeah,
Um,
love that.
like they both needed it like badly. uh,
They were in a rough place, man. Like Valix 132 out of Shadow Flame Shards, 3,087 games
yep,
this year. Like, oof. Yeah. And Lilith not far ahead at 177.
yeah.
So
And then
bad news.
I think I can say this. I we at some point in the future, we don't have them now, but we were promised the rules for a couple things in Shadowflame to like talk about early, and I'm really hoping that Valix is one of those things because I really want to see everything they do with him. So I'm looking very much forward to that and seeing exactly how he ends up and being able to be like the first ones to talk about it. I think that's going to be super cool. Let's see, is there anything else in there? Some stuff to Crucible Guard getting smacked a little bit. They definitely deserved it. Oh,
I don't know. Just got re-released. It feels a little wild to do that.
I mean, a lot of
Uh,
it is just like the spray attacks going down, right? The Rayless
yeah,
Interceptor doesn't need the +2 arm from a shield, so it's going down to 1. Um,
yeah. Let's see. Oh, I love seeing Zadaroth get taken down a few pegs.
oh,
Man.
actually, this is the other important one. I wanted to make sure it was in here. Chemical Warfare is changing already.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's allowing people to actually still roll to see if it goes out.
Oh, it
S-
was before you
It
didn't
yeah.
roll.
Before it
You could
just you
only
you just
fires
took
out
the
or
double
look.
damage. Yeah. Now you
Yeah.
still take the double damage, but you get a roll to at least hopefully try to get it to go out. So
Yeah. That's probably reasonable.
yeah, I don't know
Considering.
if you've ever had
Yeah.
the double fire damage on you when you're like arm 14 caster, but it's a really quick way to end games. Oof.
As a man who played Crucible Guard back in Mark III, Ryan, I can tell you that I never got chemical warfare on people, but I did get oiled fire damage rolls on casters a couple
Mm,
times, and it was pretty great.
yep.
But I also understand how, from the opposite side, right, that could be a massive feels bad if you're like, oh, this AoE just happened to clip my caster, light them on fire, and then their caster just like ran in and was like, oh, you're on fire now. It's double damage. I'm like,
Well,
oh, I'm playing Kane. I'm arm 13. This is going to be really bad.
I mean, even your casters like Rassic, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, they're arm 18 and fire resistant. It's like, cool, I shot you, you lose fire resistant. Still dice off 6 double damage. Like, that'll still chip something in. And it's like, ugh, I'm not supposed to be hating fire this much. What is happening?
Yeah. Yeah. That rule, as it was printed, seemed a little bonkers to me.
It was a little strong.
A man who is currently collecting Crucible Guard again for the
Well,
second time.
stop it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Infernals changes. They're losing a couple solos, so like Elish Garrity, Orin, Saxon, Crow's Cutthroats. But they are going to get the re-release treatment later this year, early next year.
They are losing Eilish, the regular
Yes,
Eilish,
Eilish
and the
one.
regular Merc Orin,
Yes,
Orin 1,
yes,
and Saxon.
correct.
So those Merc models are moving into Legacy.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're not going to be in Infernals
Yeah.
anymore. They're going to
Which,
Legacy.
I mean, I don't know how often you saw Eilish 1 versus the Eilish who does the same thing but then gets to teleport afterwards.
Not a
Eilish 2,
not a
better.
ton, but
Yeah.
I'm sure there was times. I know you'd see Saxon sometimes just for Pathfinder.
Well, you'd see Saxon all the time, right? Because Pathfinder was like a big deal for that army, I
Yeah.
think. But
Um,
that's an interesting precedent, right? Is like actually retiring models. But admittedly, like Orin Midwinter and Saxon Auric are like those models have got to be like 20 something years old at
yeah,
this point, right?
something
Like,
like that.
yeah. Like that to
Um,
me, I can understand being a little upset by that, but that feels like absolutely fair game.
yeah.
Like,
Well, the other
yeah.
part of it is anything that they're like because they're getting re-released the same as like Pigs and Crucible Guard, like the the things that you're missing, like that they do, you're probably gonna get back just on a different model at some point.
Mm,
Like if Pathfinder becomes such a thing where it's like, oh man, they really need access to this for units, like they have all the ability in the world to be like, all right, well, we're gonna give them a new character solo that gives them Pathfindering
or
stuff. But
or
it's
I'm gonna take Zadaroth, who has Ghost Walk,
yeah,
who never needed to cast any spells
yep.
ever.
hmm So, it's going to be cool to see what they do with that, but I like some models getting, like you said, retired. Um, but it also allows them, when they re-release them and re-put them up via 3D printing, that, like, they have more options to, like, give them more things and not feel like they're just like, oh, I just made a slightly better Saxon. Like, yeah, but now I can do that and I don't have to worry about it because the first one isn't here anymore, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it does mean the cool thing for Infernals, they're getting a fourth master, Voragoth, Conduit of the Abyss, which is going to be apparently like the big summoner. So
Yep.
curious to see how that goes. It looks like summoning as a rule isn't changing, so it'll work exactly like it does now. But Zadaroth looks like she's getting hit. Feat is going from +3 defense to +2. The range
Dark
reduction
Dynasty.
aura, yeah, is going from 10 to 5, and she's losing
Excellent.
Scything Touch for Carnivore. So she goes from
Okay.
like, oh, and Carnivore is changing to just be +2 attack rolls against all enemies, not just living models. So it's a model
Oh,
unit
that's
gets +2 to attack.
yeah.
So, well, melee
That's a
attack.
good change. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's super cool. It means, Zadaroth can still do some of the goofy I put a snake into your deployment zone bottom of one, which I don't super like, but whatever.
But that snake is no longer in the Dark Legacy
Right.
aura.
So you can actually shoot it, you can
So,
interact with it a little bit more.
yeah, if you can get around the stealth, like that snake is yours for the taking.
Yeah. It's
So
also not
to me,
casually going to
that's
have
great.
it's also not going to casually have Scything Touch on it and be like, "Oh, I hit and now here's auto hitting POW 17s or 18s whatever it had." Like,
Yeah.
so that's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then Agathon is getting a buff, which
Yep. Love that.
I
Love
don't.
that.
I played into Cody enough this year, and he did bad things with Agathon. He did not need the help.
Yeah. I do think it makes the change of Agathon getting Sacred Word, Field Marshal Sacred Word, I think makes the Infernals mirror an absolute freaking nightmare
Oh, 100%.
if like Agathon is in the pair, which is wild. Oh, and the Infernal Gate. This was a big one because it's not the only model with this rule. Oriax, I think, also has this
He
rule,
does.
right? The Gate of Worlds.
hmm
Yeah, you can just move. You just spend a soul to move a friendly model two, and is no longer once per turn. It's just spend a soul, move it two.
Yep.
Uh,
It's still
great.
once per model.
Yeah, once per model, and also friendly. So pretty darn cool, if you ask me.
Uh-huh. I do like
Yeah.
that it's you can't just use it to be like, oh, I move this Tormentor 6 inches. It's totally fine. But it does let you play that game of like with Oriax or this thing to be like, oh, I really need multiple things to get up there, and I have the souls to spend. Go,
Mm-hmm.
go, go, gadget pseudo crane.
Yep. Um yeah, and like um you still have to pay for the
Mhm.
gate. Like and the gate's still a pretty good, I mean, I don't know, it still is a boostable gun with
It's a decent gun.
yeah, boostable gun with ghost shot, like ugh, still pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
Uh, let's see. Then we've got into Piggies, which they're getting their re-release. The models I think are going to be the War Machine 3D like wellbeing gift starting January. So you'll get Sufflix and them, I think. So that'll be
Pretty
super
darn
cool.
cool.
They're another one where they're losing a bunch of models that they just won't have access to in Prime anymore. So the
It
Talon, the Rover,
does,
the Nomad,
yeah.
Mule, Alt and
It
Ashley.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, because these are all actually mercenary models, I
yes.
think, with the exception of Victor Pendrake and Linus and Andrea. And again, I remember when Linus and Andrea came out. It was pretty early on in my time playing War Machine, and I've been playing War Machine for a really long time. So
hmm
yeah,
Yep. But they do get a new character heavy. Uh, you're gonna have to pronounce this one because I just can't. It's
Litiersis.
sure. However I pronounce it, I'm gonna get yelled at by Mike, so I'm just not gonna bother.
Listerine, the
There-
new Thornfall heavy.
Pigment flavored. Let's go.
He's pigment flavored. All right.
Yep. So they're getting that, which is an arc node, or as they're calling it, a pork node. But
Yep.
a new Valkyrie solo, bringing battle plans like Desperate Phase and Stir the Blood, and a new Cav unit,
A
crit
chain
knockdown, trash, and improvised harpoons.
harpoons. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what
but
that
I'm
means.
excited to know.
I
Yeah.
don't know how you improvise a harpoon, but if anyone's gonna do it, it'd be a pharaoh. So, let's see.
Oh, sweet. And they're turning
Carver
Carver.
into like a full warlock.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mhm. Yeah, Carver's going into a full warlock, and MMD 47 is a character war beast available for 17 points.
Oh,
That's
that's
pretty
cool.
good.
That's
And
pretty
actually a
good.
neat change, because that means that you can play him with old school Carver,
Mhm.
as opposed to having to play him,
Or
not
not.
play him in
Yeah.
in like 1/3 of the available casters for that
Yep.
army, or 1/4.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, him being available everywhere at a slightly cheaper price tag will be nice too. So that's super cool. Dr. Arcadius is picking up Field Marshal Channeler, and getting Pursuit instead of Watcher. So anyone who was around for Dr. Arcadius, feeding and just murdering your caster top of 2, get ready because that sounds like it's coming back a little bit.
It's back. Yep.
Warhogs and Roadhogs are going up to arm 18 and 19, and the Warhogs Cleavers are going up to range 2. Great change for them. It was one of those weird
Yeah.
ones. They've got these giant axes and never understood why they were range 1, but.
Yep.
And then Razor Boars, you can now run 30 to 50 Feral Hogs.
Well, you can run 8 Razor Boars.
Just put 30 of them on the table. No one's going to call you on it. It's fine.
Not the same thing.
It's basically the same thing.
Yeah. Man, back in the day, apparently you could run like a lot of them.
Oh, you could. They were like blight wasps. You could just take massive amounts of them.
Yeah.
Don't know why you would want to, but you could.
Who is the guy with the pet? Is it Midas? Who is the feat that was like Pet Cemetery,
Yep,
where you just
that was Midas.
burn all your destroyed war beasts from the battle group? It's like, imagine playing Midas with like 30 of these idiots.
They would come back with 1 box in each column.
Aspect, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in each aspect.
Mhm.
And then they were undead war beasts on top of everything else, so they didn't frenzy or anything else, and it was just like, all right, go.
Yep. It's not efficient, but it is a great way to put 90 boxes back on the table.
Mhm.
I have to tell you, there's a bunch of Army of Legends buffs and changes in here. There is only one that I want to talk about because it's the most exciting one for me. Typhon now has Rate of Fire 3 instead of Forced Reload 2.
Woo!
Finally, someone was just like, why did we penalize
do
this
this?
thing
Yeah.
for no reason?
Uh-huh.
Why did we take away the cool thing about him that literally was
What's
always
his whole point?
Whole point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But well done. I really hope that was a Jamie, given a little old school Legion player love to Typhon. Much appreciated, whoever it was.
Goes up to 18 points though, so
yeah,
6 initials, but worth it.
When you have 6 initials, who cares? Yeah.
And then want to get into SR26, where they're indicating a cap on objectives has been lifted, which is one of the new scenarios requires 4 flag objectives, another requires 4 40s. So, when you're looking at this towards the end of the month, if you have like a single objective pack, you're going to need some more stuff.
Get them 3D printers going, boys and girls.
Yep. If you just bought them, then I'm not really sure what to do. But there's probably going to be something there.
Yeah.
So if you only have one set, you talk to some friends with a 3D printer, or if your store is like a war store, get them through that.
Yeah.
Or
they've been releasing themed objectives.
Yeah.
With all the stuff in my mini factory.
Yep.
And the tribe, whatever, is that what it's called?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't 3D print. This
Same.
is not a hobby that into. Sorry.
Same.
Yeah, they've been releasing themed objectives with all of the armies that they put up on there. So I imagine if you're like already printing stuff, it's pretty trivially easy to just like run another set.
Yeah. Or specific if you need specific ones, I don't even think you need to run the whole set.
Yeah, just like, all right, I'm just gonna print like 10 40 millimeter
Yeah.
objectives today, and we'll
And
hand them out at play night at the store or whatever.
yeah, I was gonna say, and if you don't have objectives, I'm like, if you have proxy bases and show up and are like, hey, these are my flags, I don't think anyone's
Yeah,
going to say anything.
yeah, I don't think
Like,
I care.
it should be fine. The other thing in here that it says is that solos and leaders will now be able to score objective terrain without needing a second model to help, which is huge news because it means solos are actually viable for scenario stuff
We love
again.
it. We love this change. And
Yeah,
by we, I mean the Bison in Wintercore loves this change and needs no help coming back.
Lord
Yeah,
of the Hunt is very happy with it
yeah,
too.
as well. Yep, yeah.
Well, like, what do you mean? I
Which
can walk forward through a couple Weapon Master spears, then Repo 5 back onto a thing and score it. Sounds dope.
I'm into it. Yeah, scoring felt real weird. Solos really felt like they didn't have a place this year or last year, I guess. Last
Yeah,
year.
they were very
Uh,
much a, like,
you take them to buff your units, and if they aren't doing that, then why take them? Kind of
yeah.
thing.
It was either they were there to buff or they were there for specific defensive tech, like the Paragon.
Or they were there because they had a true mercenary model strapped to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was
Look
the
at
other
you,
option.
Drusilla. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that, but that's super cool for them because it means, like,
Yeah.
your Carver or Magnus that you kind of want to stay back anyway, right? To not lose your expensive War Beast or Warjack that came with them, can now
Hmm.
stay back and actually contribute to scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's really exciting to me also. There's a particular model that I think is just so darn cool that we didn't really see any of this year or last year, and that was the Assault Strider in Gravediggers,
hmm
right? Like, what a cool model, but it was a solo, and it was 10 points, and you could just take a Valiant for 10 points, so why wouldn't you?
yep.
You know? Yeah.
Now it might actually have a place, and I think that's super cool. It also means that, like, some of those little like ambushing solos and stuff might be a lot more useful. If
Yeah.
like if a scenario like trench warfare exists where it's like, oh yeah, you're trying to score your opponent's terrain objective and it's on the other side of the table, suddenly having like a Nisak being like, hey, I ambushed on and I walked in and I just scored this myself is actually
Yeah,
super
ambush
relevant.
solos become like huge deal now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nisak and
Regulus.
who are some of the other ones? Regulus. Why
Um,
can I only think of things that Shadowflame Shard can take?
I mean, you're a Shadow Flame Shard player at heart.
That's true. I do own the army.
I
That
know
is
you do.
true. Yeah,
I know. We've talked
they
about it.
they are also on my shelf. They are less painted than my Dusk, and I am less sad about them.
Yeah,
I
but they look
like them.
cooler.
They didn't really click with me in the same way that other factions have.
Try harder. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
That's
All
that's my
right.
answer.
So all in all, pretty exciting like review of the update and kind of the vibe that we're getting from it. After seeing this preview, which I also note, like one of the things they said and noted was this is part one, right? So
Yep.
we
So there's going to be a
might get
second part.
another one of these articles at some point. I don't know when, but
I would
that's
expect
pretty.
sometime in the next 19 days.
Yes. Oh goodness. Yeah, so pretty exciting there to see some of these updates get spoiled and to kind of get an idea, kind of to see not just what the changes were, but also hear like how the changes were made, that they like in some instances they looked at lore, in other instances they looked at like tournament data and like play rates and stuff like that. So really neat.
While other ones just kind of
Just
seem like this was kind of a gimme. You didn't really have to do a lot of work on this one. It just, yeah, that makes sense. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, I was excited for this update anyway, right? In the sense that I'm always excited for January because it feels a little bit like you get to play a little bit of a new game. You
hmm
know, there's
hmm
like that whole discovery phase
Yep.
that you get to have for like the first few months of the year that kind of finally like wraps up at Adepticon. That's when I always feel like the meta starts like shaking out each year. Uh, but even better. this year because it really looks like looking at the changes to Athena, right? Like we're just this might as well be 4.5, right?
Yep. So like the
Like
changes we see to Athena, to Lilith, like
yeah,
it suddenly like these casters that you just didn't see are like, oh, this is super viable now, and what does this do to like upgrade the style of play you're gonna see from some of these armies?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like that's gonna be super cool to see how that works out. It's gonna be super cool. The thing I always like is seeing what people come up with early, right? Because nobody has any idea. Nobody's sitting here like, oh, well, the correct build is to actually take two of these all the time. It's like
Yeah.
everybody's just experimenting and being like, okay, what works, what doesn't. And like there's cycles to it where it's like, okay, obviously the obviously strong stuff goes first, or like the obviously tanky stuff. But like as you get slightly later into the year to see people like the different tech choices that come out of it, the different like, oh, well, my meta is very heavy in crick, so I always take this guy. And then you see those lists show up at like bigger cons, and it's like, oh, yeah, this works really well in my local meta, but it doesn't work super well outside of that. And like watching in real time as things kind of coalesce is super cool.
Yeah, I think there is also a an element of the Mark II and Mark III game that I think has been missing since the launch of Mark IV, and that was like there's less um, tech pieces taken in each list
Mm-hmm.
for like specific matchups,
Mm-hmm.
right? You could really lean on like I'm gonna generally take these things that are good
Yep.
in my army and then I'm gonna lean on the rack to kind of solve these particular problem matchups.
Or you
But
just lean on always having access to certain spells because of the rack, right? Like, oh,
yeah,
I can always take Carnage and Ghost Walk. Nothing is a problem. I don't have problems hitting, and terrain doesn't matter anymore.
yeah, exactly. And now you're like, I'm gonna take. I'm thinking in particular, the spell I always think of in this case is Inviolable Resolve,
Mm-hmm.
because not because of the armor, but because of the no push, no
Yep.
pull, no slam, and no knockdown.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, that meant like there's so much drag
Yep. That just
on like
never.
weapons in this game that just people got to ignore
Yep.
because your stuff can't move. And so all of a sudden now it like you have to start worrying about these abilities that have always existed, but the rack just like kind of protected you from them.
Mm-hmm.
And it means that the models that have some of those abilities inbuilt, like models with steady or sturdy or that kind of thing, like those kind of get more valuable because those abilities are rarer now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Um.
so you'll see the like, maybe you're doing well in the tournament scene, but you go to an event and somebody plays Thexus against you, and you're like, oh, I'm used to having IR, and that would always save me in this matchup, but now I just get like shoved off scenario and absolutely rocked. And
Yep.
so then you have to go back and like redesign your list to compensate for that in a
Well,
way that you didn't have to before.
I
So I
think the
think there's going to be more like list variety depending on like local and regional metas.
I think the other part of that is that like like looking at like IR specifically, right? It was always just such a good default. Like even if you didn't necessarily need it, it was always just a good fallback to be like, oh, +2 arm is never a bad thing to have. Like even if the push drag none of that came in handy, it was always just like, well, I don't know what to take in this match. I guess I just take this generally good thing and
Yeah.
it'll do something. Um the thing which like I think also kind of messed with list construction a little bit because if you knew like okay I'm almost always going to have this thing to get plus armor, like you would probably just start with something that's already fairly tanky. If you know you don't have that anymore, maybe that opens it up to be like, okay, do I still want to take the slow tanky unit when I can't buff them as well as maybe I
Yeah.
could the faster
Won't
defense unit?
have this armor buff every time I play.
Yep.
Yeah.
The other
Hmm.
thing I think is going to be neat is so I'm not sure how to phrase this. I'm going to say it in a way and I'll explain if I need to, but like you and me and people who have been playing for a while or played in like Mark II and Mark III before like the rack existed knew how to play a bad matchup, right? Because you would go
Yes.
into it and say, shit, I'm playing Denny 1, I don't have answers to this, or I'm playing Denny 2, or I'm playing into Thyron. I dropped the wrong caster. I have to just play through this now because I zigged when they zagged and shit.
Yeah.
And had to figure out those like really niche uses for spells that you maybe didn't use or abilities you didn't really use because
Yeah.
if you
Play for your
engaged in the fight that you normally do, you know you're gonna lose it. And I think the rack kind of took that away because you could
Mhm.
basically drop anything and be like, oh, you're running a bunch of drags. I'm gonna take IR and Windstorm, and like I'm still gonna be okay generally. With
Yeah.
that not being a case anymore, I'm a little concerned for people who have just started playing and are just like only know the system with the rack. The first couple games I think are going to be very jarring when you're like, oh yeah, my pair is going to be Bodan and Reznikova, and like I can handle everything, and suddenly you can't just grab Windstorm and Surefoot and IR, and you're
Suddenly
like,
you hit an army with a lot of I don't know, or suddenly you hit what's her name? Shoot, Athena,
yep,
right? And she's like, "Cool. What if I blinding light you and
mm-hmm,
vanishing ward my stuff? What are you gonna do now with
yep,
that list pair?" And you're
yeah.
like, "I don't know, nothing."
Suddenly it's like, oh, I guess I'm stuck with whatever I have, and obviously we don't know where every caster ended up, but like, if your mainline abilities are things where you're like, oh, I'm used to having, like, Stranglehold, and suddenly I can't use that, and instead of being able to grab IR and Surefoot and being like, well, yeah, but I can just be a stats caster instead, you don't get those, it's like, huh, now I actually have to, like, figure out how to play this without the very obvious buffs.
Yeah, like now what do I do?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to
Mhm.
be a little bit of a wake up call for some people, but it's also, I think, going to breed some really weird innovations at first because,
Yes.
like, I think a lot of people are just going to stick with the pairing that they know, regardless of the changes, and be like, okay, I've played X number of games with these casters. This is fine. I'll figure it out. And it's going to be funny to see how those lists change to then deal with the fact that, like, oh, I don't always have access to Windstorm or Silence of Death or IR or whatever. Like, instead of changing casters, I know this caster, let me change the list around them to better suit maybe what they do have or like the style of play I want to play on scenario. And I think that's going to lead to some weird like bad player experiences at first as you're just like get stomped by like a
Mhm.
Thexus because you're like, "Oh, I don't have an answer to this."
Well, and I think those bad experiences, if I can interject for a
Mhm.
moment, like
Feel
I
free.
think those bad experiences were happening anyway, but they were
For sure.
happening because you were like, I'm a new player. I don't know what other armies do, and
Mhm.
I don't know what rack spells to pick for any given game, so I'm just gonna pick the ones that I kind of am moderately comfortable with.
Yep.
I had a game against a gentleman from Arkansas earlier this year. It was
Arkansas.
his first event that he ever went to. He
Mhm.
rode up with a bunch of the Arkansas guys and came to our IG qualifier
Right on.
at in St. Louis, and he and I played like round one, and he's just like, "Hey, this is the first tournament I've ever been to. I've never played against Wintercore before. I don't know what your army does." So like I'm just gonna take the rack spells that I already take and I'm gonna like see and just learn. And if that's like cool with you, I'm gonna probably ask you a lot of questions. And I'm like, yeah, that's absolutely fine, right?
Dope.
And the spell he did not rack was Rough Seas. And
Oh
my
no.
Savarin list just shot this man off the table.
Yep.
And after the game, he's like, wow, I had always heard that Winter Core was bad. I didn't know that they could do that. And I was like, well, like, your army just is like, how many six? Like, to do this to you, I just need to roll a bunch of sixes.
Yep.
If you were to rack a spell like Rough Seas,
Suddenly
all of a
that's
sudden
way
I need to
harder.
roll a bunch of star-crossed sixes, which is actually more like rolling eights, which is really hard.
Yep.
And, this is a completely different game. So I think, like, it's maybe not going to be that if we reproduce that same situation right in 2026, maybe he's not going to pick the wrong spells. Maybe he's just going to be like, I don't know what Kador does, so I'm just going to drop the caster I'm comfortable with, and you're going to get like raffle stomp for that reason,
Yeah.
right? Like,
It'll be a different experience. Like I said,
yeah.
I don't think it'll necessarily be bad, but I think there's gonna be some like really weird negative experiences at first when you run into like a Thexus, a Kythos, an Aslanov
With
or a
a
Rassic or
hard
some
with a
or Harusk, somebody who can really skew one
Yeah.
stat, and you're just like,
Yep. Like a
oh,
skew or like a gear check.
yep.
Yeah.
Suddenly you
Absolutely.
can't just be like, oh, well, I'm gonna rack Battle Lust and Curse of Shadows, and I'll be fine. It's like, I only have, like Kiss of Lilas, and turns out that's not enough anymore. Huh. Um, so I think that's going to be interesting, but I also think it's going to breed some early innovation, and I'm interested to see where armies, so like Dusk, end up, once all the
Yes.
changes are seen, because it's like, because they had Battle Lust on the rack, it felt like they could never have like super strong melee, because if they
Yep.
did, you could just put Battle Lust on it and make it absolutely insane.
Yeah.
If with Battle Lost not being available everywhere, and if somebody didn't get it, or even if they did, what does that do for their melee? Is everything going to be like, oh, like Slayers suddenly get like an extra power too because they can afford to just have that now, or maybe they pick up like Gang Fighter, right? Some
Yeah.
situation, or like Brutal Charge, right? Something where it's
Yeah.
situational, where that's like, hey, they can have this now because they're not also going to casually be weapon masters whenever they go in.
Weapon masters all the time. Yep. Yeah.
So,
Or like maybe, or like maybe there's less hesitation, like we already saw in this, right? Around giving big game hunter
mhm,
to, storm guard legionnaires. Like maybe there is something in each faction where like somebody gets to be a conditional weapon master. Like,
yeah.
yeah, like you can do all sorts of neat stuff. And it
Mhm.
really seems like Steamforge has done a bunch of neat stuff already and is like planning on more. So,
Yeah, so I'm excited to see the rest of it. Um,
yeah.
I'm excited to see the part two, and I'm excited for the 21st.
Choo choo, I'm all aboard the Railless hype train.
I hope the Railless gets nerfed into the ground just to spite you. I also
I
hope
mean,
that the first Menoth model we see is riding a dinosaur just to spite Andy Bev. I
I hope
need
the first Menoth model we see, Ryan, is riding a Railless Interceptor.
you, son
And
of a
I'll leave it at
bitch.
that. Fire
Son of a
spray, baby.
I want it. I really want them to do like a mini crate where it's just like Amon and Raza on a Raptor, just so I can bring it up to Andy and be like, "Hey, you see this? Check it out. Check it out. What do you think?
You know that thing they said they'd never do?
Yeah,
Turns out they did it.
yeah.
Boom.
Uh,
Boom.
I would paint that up so nice, make it like a display model, and just be like, all right, this is gonna be the top of a trophy, and it's just gonna come with me every time I see you. What's the trophy for? Because I was right.
The Andy Bev Award
Yep.
for being right. Love you, Andy.
He doesn't listen to this. He's not gonna hear it.
He doesn't listen to any
I
podcasts.
know.
I know. He's he's like still a man of mystery, which is pretty fun.
I mean,
Uh
it's true.
yeah. Whew.
Um,
Alrighty.
yeah. Anything else before we sign off?
No, Ryan, it's great to hear from you. Great to cast in 2026 and looking forward to an exciting year of War Machine. One, I guess, final thing to say as we sign off, which is like a big thanks to More Than Dice for hosting us for a number of years. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
they have moved on and gone their own way in relation to War Machine and War Machine content, and we wish them well and thank them for helping us out for a number of years.
It's true. Uh, I agree with that. It's going to be a great year for War Machine. And tickets for the Boker Brawl go on sale sometime in the next 3 months. So if you want to go to a convention, you should go to that one because it's dope. And I am going to push this shit real hard for Seth because I like him. And also, it's a great convention. So check that
The
shit
Broker
out.
Brawl 2026 is May 1st to 3rd of 2026. Tickets go on sale, Ryan,
Hmm. Hmm.
Valentine's Day
Oh,
2026.
grab your sweetie.
Ooh. Yep. Grab your sweetie and then three other friends and get on a team and get to the brawl.
And if you don't have three other friends, just message Seth. We'll find people to pretend to be your friend for a couple days.
Who knows? When you're done pretending, you might actually be friends. You probably will be.
How crazy to have a friend. What a weird thing.
All right, Ryan. Uh, thanks to everybody for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.